Hello and welcome into the Rundown with Caleb and Casey here on a Thursday afternoon. It is December 19th, 2024. It's finals week here in Ames, Casey.
Yeah.
Casey and I just crushing it. I mean, academic weapons.
You can say that.
They call us those. That's what they'd be saying about us these days. We did a basketball pod last week where we spent time talking all things basketball. If you haven't checked that out, go ahead and do so. It was not a YouTube stream, but it was uploaded onto our regular podcast feeds. You can check that out. All things Iowa State, Big 12, college basketball as a whole. Dan Hurley was a topic.
Yeah, he was. And I'm sure he'll continue to be a topic throughout this year.
We didn't get to talk about Jerome Tang much last week, but he's now a topic.
Yeah, he's a topic, and he's trending downwards, along with Coleman Hawkins' $2 million NIL deal. So, great things for the city of Ames, though.
What a surprise that was, huh?
Who could have called it? Who could have called it?
Seemed to remember us maybe making a comment about that briefly back during the summer, and I think we probably were a little bit closer to dead on that one than Kansas State was, and Kansas State fans were.
Yeah, without a doubt.
So because last week was all basketball, we planned on doing our regular podcast last week as well. So having two of them, that didn't work out. We were both pretty busy, both sick as well.
Yeah.
We both were sick at different times last week, so that kind of hindered it a little bit as well. So this week it is a regular pod, and we haven't talked since before Iowa State played the Big 12 championship. So we have a number of topics to hit on. Although the nice thing is this past week has been pretty dead, so we haven't had too much new in the world of sports going on. So, college football playoffs today, Iowa State football. We'll pick the first round of the CFP, and then we'll probably call it good after that. So,
yeah.
Casey, how about we just start here? I feel like we don't need to spend too much time on the Big 12 championship. That was already almost 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is just looking back at that Big 12 championship and thinking about it 2 weeks later, because this is the first time we've talked about it since then. Just how disappointing it was that, you go in there with one of the best teams in school history, one of the most talented teams. It's still, in my opinion, the best season in school history.
Yeah.
A win in the Pop Tarts Bowl, I think, would solidify that without a doubt. But, man, just did not show up.
No, it was disappointing, almost tough to watch at times, too. Nothing went our way. Our schemes weren't as good. I mean, Cam Scadaboo looked almost as good as Ashton Jeanty.
Yeah.
Who's another guy who's a topic. What a snub that was, by the way.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rundown did not endorse Travis Hunter as the
Not
Heisman
against
pick.
him, but he was my second vote. I would just say that.
Yeah, the Heisman committee didn't give us votes, unfortunately. But
Not
even
yet.
if we did vote, I think there was still too big of a margin between Hunter and Jeanty. Although it was one of the closer ones in recent memory, the voting margin for the Heisman. Yeah.
But just looking back at Iowa State, it was a tough one, man. Not a lot went our way. Arizona State kind of had their way. I think this game does set a precedent moving forward that this league, just like in basketball, is anyone's league. And now more so than ever, preseason doesn't mean anything. Because what people are saying about you at the beginning of the year, anything can change. We now see that the transfer portal and players flipping commitments and all this and NIL, everyone thought it would just make the top teams better because that's where everyone goes. And I think, in fact, we're seeing mostly the opposite, where, yes, the top teams are getting better, but this shows, the teams that are unexpected, the underdogs, if you will, not only do they have a fighting chance, they have a winning chance in every single game and every single week throughout the year.
Yeah, I like looking at it from that perspective because Arizona State did seemingly the impossible. You're picked last in the conference preseason, go on to win the conference championship. Now they're the 4 seed in the CFP, which, by the way, I think they have I think people aren't giving them enough credit for how good they really are.
Yeah.
And they'll get a chance to show that here in the CFP, and we'll talk about them more in a little bit. But yeah, like I said, I don't think we need to spend too much time. Like, this game has been analyzed from every angle from every Iowa State fan at this point. There's nothing new that we need to say about this game. Really, it was just like, to me, that Oklahoma Big 12 championship in 2020, Iowa State had beaten them earlier in the year, but you knew it was going to be really, really tough. Oklahoma with Spencer Rattler. That was when Spencer Rattler was really, really good.
When he was good at football.
Yes, exactly. And they had a really good team. And so you didn't feel like losing that game was really that bad anyway. This one, it was like, it really felt like Iowa State could go toe-to-toe against Arizona State. And I'll give them credit. Even without Jordan Tyson there at receiver, Sam Levitt played really, really well. And
yeah,
they got the most out of their receivers as well, the guys that hadn't done much of anything all year long. And that was a surprise to me.
Yeah, definitely. They got guys involved that hadn't really been, like, statistically on the game plan when you looked at it. Everyone kind of touched the ball. Like, they got everything they wanted to anytime they did. Just couldn't stop them. Like, I don't know if it was defensively like a scheme issue or we just got outplayed or what it was, but defensively it was just...
Tackling, that was one of the worst tackling performances I've ever seen from Iowa State. It was bad.
That was rough, and, I mean, that defense is the strong suit. And then the tough thing is you can't rely on your defense in this bowl game because you're going up against a Miami offense that all they do is score, and they're going to put up 30 or 40 no matter what. You just have to keep up with them on offense and hope your defense gets the one stop it needs. Yeah,
the Big 12 championship really, defensively it was a horrible performance, but you didn't do the defense any favors by having back-to-back turnovers in the third quarter. That was where the game ended right there. There was nothing you can do about that. Let's use that as a segue. So I want to spend a little bit of time here talking about both the Pop Tarts Bowl. I'm sure we'll pod maybe one more time before that game.
9 days away from the game.
Isn't? Oh, it's 9 already, isn't it?
It's maybe before. Not. It'll be tough too.
Yeah, we'll see. To be determined. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about that, and then also the transfer portal as well, and just the offseason for Iowa State. So, like you mentioned, Casey, Miami in the Pop Tarts Bowl. Still no announcement from Cam Ward either way, correct?
No official announcement, but like Hunter, like Sanders, it sounds more and more likely that he will be playing. Yeah. So at this point, Cyclone fans, I would just expect Cam Ward to be playing in this game.
Yes. And honestly, I like that. That obviously bodes really, really well for Miami. He's one of the best players in college football. He's going to be a top 3, top 5 draft. He's going to be a top 3 draft pick, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
He's an insane talent. But I want to see the best of the best. I want to see how these guys stack up against Cam Ward. And, I don't want to see Iowa State just play against some backup quarterback who hasn't played yet this year. Albeit, I'm sure he'd probably still be a pretty good player, but
yeah,
I want to see this. This is what used to make bowl games so good, is they really did mean something. And in today's day and age, especially with the expanded playoff, they just mean less and less and less every year because of the opt-outs, and because of perceptions too. Like, if you're a Miami, for instance, and your brand is, you used to win national championships, you're competing for ACC championships, or at least you should be every year. Well, in the 12-team format, you probably think you should be in the playoffs. So I kind of would have expected Miami to just, not really care too much about this bowl game, but it seems like they're bought in. It seems like Mario Cristobal has got his guys focused. They want to win this game, and that's what I want to see, because for Iowa State in this scenario, I think this game still holds a lot of importance. Mainly, not just getting guys reps going into next year, but I think there's so much on the line in, if you can find a way to win this, what is your perception then going into next year? Mm-hmm. It's obviously a lot higher than if you lose it, right?
Yeah.
And we've talked so much this year about what that first AP poll does for the entire rest of the season, the precedent that it sets. And if you can find a way to win this one, even if you lose and you play really well against a good Miami team, that was on the fence. They were projected to be a top 4 seed all year long in the CFP. I think that still bodes pretty well. So, it stinks that you're not in the CFP, but I think there's still a lot riding on this game.
Yeah, without a doubt. And obviously you want to give your seniors a good send-off as well.
True.
I mean, these guys have been with the program. They've watched it grow and have competed at levels that many other Cyclones will never get the opportunity to say that they have. And these guys won it more than anyone. I mean, I think the good thing about the Iowa State culture is they continue to fight. They continue to buy in no matter what it is. And I bet you they have a chip on their shoulder heading into this week. You're going up against Miami, an ACC team who probably thinks that they should have been in the college football playoff, who probably thinks that, they're a much better team. They don't have to game plan for Iowa State. You have the chip on your shoulder. And obviously this team knows how to use that to their advantage and should be putting everything that they have into going out and winning this and pushing forward to next season.
Without a doubt. And then how about the transfer portal so far? This has been really, really good.
Yeah.
Most notably, I don't think you can ever really replace like Jalen Knoll, goodness, excuse me, and Jaden Higgins specifically. But you go out and you get 2 guys, one of each, kind of being those 2 builds, those 2 wide receiver skill sets in Chase Sowell. Or Sowell, whatever, however you pronounce it, from East Carolina, who is kind of going to be that Jaden Higgins type of mold.
Yep.
And then Xavier Townsend from UCF, who is going to be that Jalen Knoll kind of guy, play the slot, shorter, fast, deep threat. Obviously, Sowell, like Higgins, possession guy, he's going to go up and make a play. That's huge because what have we been saying all year long? Next year, losing those 2 best players on offense, what are you going to do with the receiver spot? And they go out, they get those 2 guys. Townsend, by the way, former teammate of Rocco Becht in high school, so that's a nice little added chemistry piece as well.
Yeah.
I love those 2 moves. And then also a D-back and
Trey Bell from Lindenwood, and we brought in Cannon Butler and Edge from UNI.
Sweet. Yeah, all 4 moves, definitely love them. And then on the flip side, too, you retain pretty much everybody noteworthy. I mean, I think the biggest name, at least in terms of guys that played this year, would probably be Jacob Ellis, but he, barring any crazy injuries next year like there were this year, he probably wasn't going to see the field too much next season. And then, from just a name perspective, J.J. Cole transferring, like that's one where he had so much hype. I want to say maybe the 2nd or 3rd highest ranked recruit in Iowa State history, so that's a bummer, but that's the way it goes these days. And yeah. I don't blame him one bit at all. Rocco Becht is clearly the guy. You're bringing in Connor Moberly as well, who it seemed to us this year like he had kind of stepped into that second string role. You've got Alex Mansky from Algona, Iowa coming in as well. The writing was on the wall for J.J. Cole. I don't blame him one bit.
No, it was something that we had kind of talked off air and behind the scenes, and we expected it to happen. And as much as we hated it to happen, we kind of wanted it to see him because we want to watch his career go. We want to watch this kid continue to move forward and play. And unfortunately, that just isn't with Iowa State. The only other major one kind of is Kennard Snyder going to Texas State. That's a tough loss. He was great. He would have been a really big depth piece to have on that defensive line heading into next year. But I don't think Iowa State's done yet. Can't recreate Nolan Higgins, but we can replicate them in the aggregate, if you will. Go out, get Townsend and Sowell, and hopefully one more receiver. I wouldn't hate to go see.
Yeah.
And another D lineman would be kind of nice to go out and get. I think Trey Bell shores up the cornerback issue that we were going to have, and Sowell and Townsend. Now we just need a couple guys to develop, right? That's the Iowa State special. We go out, we get guys when they're young. They continue to develop throughout their career. It's seeing who will grow in the next, 6 months, 7 months, until they're back out, 8 months until they're back out on the field. So see who continues to do that. But I don't think we're done. Hopefully we're not done. I mean, with the transfer portal, we should be going out and being aggressive on kids. It doesn't hurt us to.
Yeah, no doubt. Just taking a look here at the Big 12 transfer portal rankings on 24/7 Sports, Texas Tech, man.
They're first nationally.
One of these years, they're just going to run the table in this conference. It's going to happen because they're doing it both in the high school ranks and the transfer portal ranks. because they do have the highest ranked recruiting class in 2025 in the Big 12 as well, right? Just regular high school recruits, I think, maybe.
No.
They did at one point.
They're 7th now. It is TCU.
Wow. Okay.
TCU has 30 incoming commits.
So never mind. They dropped down quite a bit. But all things considered, though, like one of these Joey McGuire teams is going to pop off. I feel like it's going to happen.
Yeah. Jeez.
Your Jayhawks are having a good portal season.
Yeah, really good portal season, especially in the terms of numbers of guys they're picking up. Kicker was a big pickup for them as well.
Ooh.
They do need to go out and get a receiver, though. That's what I've been waiting for. There's a couple rumors about Alabama guys coming in. We got Cam Pickett from Ball State. He'll be good, but there's 1 or 2 Alabama guys that are still yet to visit this week that I'm hoping we land.
And then how about the recent deal? I guess we're just kind of meshing some Big 12 topics into the Iowa State football one as well. But how about the news to come out of Stillwater, Oklahoma over the last couple of weeks with Mike Gundy and his restructured contract where they had this standoff between the athletic department and Gundy himself and basically an ultimatum, hey, either you give a portion of your money towards NIL and then revenue sharing funding or you're getting cut loose. And it sounds like he's staying on board and he's going to be okay with this, but geez, man, that was just a gross little situation down there.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think you're seeing more and more of that throughout sports because also FSU's Mike Norvell agreed to restructure his contract around $4.5 million of his salary.
What did they call it? The something initiative?
I can't even remember. Yeah.
It was something so stupid.
It was something that they're just giving a fancy name to.
Yeah. Oh, just dancing around the fact that they're paying their guys straight up. Like,
yeah.
Just
and it is what it is. But I mean, you're gonna see that. Like, if you can't go out there and produce things, now we have even more incentive to take money out of your contract because we can push that to going towards players. And I think as a coach, yeah, it sucks to lose part of your salary and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you are putting it towards like bringing in players or towards getting things for the program, which does help. Does set a weird. I mean, everything that happens now, I'm going to keep saying the word because everything does set a new precedent for what's going to happen. And these kind of coaching deals, Matt Campbell just got extended to 2032.
Yeah.
He has a season where he goes 5-6. He may see they sit down with him and say, hey, you're going to lose a chunk of the salary for X and Y year because of this, and we need to get this team turned around.
And I would really be interested to see, too, what the details are, excuse me, of Matt Campbell's new contract as well as TJ Otzelberger's because they're both extended through 2032. And I would venture to guess, Casey, that Matt Campbell and TJ Otzelberger are probably not in these new contracts getting the kind of raise that they would have 5 years ago if they were extended through, this amount of time.
Yeah.
Because now the economics of college sports is you have to account for so much of the money going towards revenue sharing and paying the players. So I would bet that, I'm sure Matt and TJ are both going to be receiving more money in this new contract than in their previous ones, right? Like I'm sure they got some sort of a raise, but I bet it's not near as big as it would have been, 5 years ago because, as coaches now, I just don't think the value is as big because so much of the money has to go towards paying the players. And then there's also, we've had this conversation too of, we're seeing so many more coaches not get fired this year than I think ever before, right? Like less big name firings across the board. A lot on the G5 level, but that's always going to happen, right? We've seen hardly any at the Power 5 level, and part of the reason is because these schools know now that these buyouts are so big, and now that they have to pay the players, they can't quite afford that. So you got to restructure things and hope that things work out. But yeah, man, it's a crazy time we're living in right now.
Yeah, without a doubt, and I think we could see decreasing in the amount of years in certain contracts. Like with Campbell and Ott, it makes sense. They're big Iowa State guys. They're bought into everything. But I think at the more national level, you're going to start seeing things go from like 10-year contracts down to like 6 or 5-year contracts, because it's like, we don't want to eat such a big chunk of money if, we have to fire you or if you move on or whatever, because so much of that money can be used now towards NIL.
Yeah. Well, and everyone's starting to see, too, like what happens up at Michigan State, where that whole Mel Tucker fiasco, where they had that one really good year and gave him a massive extension, and then the next year, everything fell through for, obviously a number of different reasons. And, yeah, there's such a danger in that now, because unless your name is Ohio State, Texas, the big 5 or 6, most of these schools can't really afford to anymore pay those giant buyouts that last, 10 plus years. And then at the same time, they're paying their athletes across the board up to $22 million a year. So everything's going to keep on changing as we keep going forward in this entirely new era. But shall we talk some college football playoffs here?
Let's do it.
Okay. We haven't really reacted yet to the CFP bracket as a whole. We haven't had a pod, obviously, since that came out. I think we're both kind of in agreement, though, that for the most part, the committee did a pretty good job here. I think the biggest thing is, like, the worry was Bama would be in. They're not. SMU was kept in after losing the ACC championship, which I think was the correct move.
Yeah.
Do you have any major thoughts on the bracket as a whole?
No, I think that's fine, because at the beginning of the year, they talked about, we want to value making the conference championship, So even if you make it and lose it, like, you shouldn't be taking such a negative compared to other teams who didn't even qualify for their conference championship. And obviously you get the people saying, well, SEC conference is so much better. Like, they should have made it in. It's such a joke. And it's like, you should have won your games. At the end of the day, you should have beat a Vanderbilt team that wasn't very good.
Did you see the tweet from the Alabama AD?
Yeah.
Greg Byrne.
Which is hilarious.
Yeah, I'm gonna read it off here, actually.
Yeah.
I got it pulled up because I was thinking about this when I was prepping for the pod today. And here's his tweet. It's kind of long, but just hear me out here, okay? So Greg Byrne, the day that the CFP bracket came out on December 8th, said, "Disappointed with the outcome and felt we were one of the 12 best teams in the country. We had an extremely challenging schedule and recognized there were 2 games in particular that we did not perform as well as we should have. We have said that we would need to see how strength of schedule would be evaluated by the CFP. With this outcome, we will need to assess how many Power 4 non-conference games," so again, emphasis on the non-conference games, "make sense in the future to put us in the best position to participate in the CFP. That is not good for college football." Again, quoting this from Greg Byrne in his Twitter account, the athletic director for the University of Alabama. Greg, you guys lost conference games. They weren't non-conference games. You lost to Vanderbilt, and you lost to, who else did they lose to?
They lost to at Vandy, at Tennessee,
killed
and
by
they got
a mediocre Oklahoma team.
Yeah, they got 21-pieced by an Oklahoma team who's lucky to make a bowl game.
Yeah. Alabama does not deserve to be in the playoff this year. You can't lose. The Tennessee won, fine. That's whatever. That was at Tennessee. They're a playoff team.
You dropped like 1 or 2 spots in the rankings when you lose that game. That game doesn't affect you.
Yep. But losing to Vanderbilt, a team with that name, right? And then, to me, the worst one is just getting manhandled by a bad Oklahoma team.
You lost to 2 6-6 teams.
Yep.
Who are you blaming?
Yep.
You want to know what their record against Power 4 non-con games was? 1-0. They went to Wisconsin and won 42-10.
Well, and then, so what's funny about that is they, because like you said, they killed Wisconsin, and then their other 3 non-con games were like Mercer,
Western Kentucky, South Florida, and Mercer, which they won 63-0, 42-16, and 52-7. You didn't drop anything.
Greg Byrne, all due respect, brother, but I don't know how much easier your non-con strength of schedule could be than that right there.
Wisconsin, you played Mercer in the middle of your year.
Wisconsin's the one Power 4 non-conference team you played, and they were terrible this year.
Oh, wait, hold on. There's a new quote for him.
You got something new here?
He said, "College football is ruined." according to the Alabama and Fox News, quote unquote, college football is ruined. Alabama fans react to Greg Burns' call to fight back in NIL wars.
Yeah, so they're having a tough time right now because they're realizing that in this new era, Alabama certainly has tradition, but they don't have this like extremely wealthy donor base like some of the other SEC programs do.
No.
So the playing field is definitely being even in that way.
Yeah, I think Vanderbilt raised probably 20 or 30 more million in NIL this year. If I had to take a guess, that's why they came out with the victory. I mean, Diego Pavia clearly has been earning tens of millions in contracts compared to a Jalen Milroe. You have the number 1 recruiting class. Don't ever tell me that you don't have enough NIL money.
Yeah. It's crazy. And the issue, too, is Greg Sankey holds so much power as the commissioner of the SEC. And, I mean, nobody can ever tell me that guy isn't pulling a lot of the strings behind college sports. I mean, he's got so much power. There's so much corruption there. The NCAA has absolutely, zero control over anything at this point. Greg Sankey, for all we know, could be the guy that is entirely in charge of the current college sports model as we know it. So that being said, Casey, the only other thing I wanted to hit on here before we pick the games is there is an unfortunate reality here where we talked about this off air a little bit, but the loser of the Big Ten championship being Penn State has a much easier path than the winner of the Big Ten championship being Oregon, who has the 1 seed. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it just comes with how the format is now. I don't think this format will stay next year. I think they're going to restructure it. I don't think auto bids will get auto buys as well because they're seeing like things that they didn't really expect. Going into this, they just expected, okay, it'll be fine. The Big 12 will get the 4 seed or whatever, and then it'll be SEC 1, ACC 3, and Big 10 2, and that's fine. And now you're looking at it, well, it's Big 10 1, SEC did get the 2, Mountain West has got the 3, Big 12's got the 4, and the ACC drops to the 12 seed. I think, this will continue to be restructured, and I don't think we'll see a set. Maybe the number changes next year for all we know, but I don't think auto buys will stay because, even as much as like 3-4 weeks back, we saw, Oregon might not be in the best spot if they go and win out the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Because Boise State had kind of locked up that spot as the number 3, number 4 team, and it's starting to question, like, do you purposefully throw the game? Like, how do they handle that? Because you would have got a home game against SMU or Clemson and then followed it up with a neutral site game against Boise State. Instead, you get your round 1 bye, you stay healthy, and anything can happen, so I'm not saying that they're guaranteed to win in either of those games. But then you have to face Tennessee or Ohio State instead. You probably would have been a 2-touchdown favorite against Boise State. Tennessee or Ohio State, that's probably more like 3.5, 4.5 point games. So it's a lot of question marks with the format, and it's a learning curve at the end of the day. Everyone is trying to learn and figure out and what works and what doesn't. It's not going to be like we put a new tournament in and immediately it's as good as March Madness, You got growing pains, you got things to learn, and I think that's what we're finding out now.
Yeah. And in their defense, too, I don't think anybody expected for the G5 overall best team, being Boise State this year, to get the 3 seed, right? Like, It was kind of just an inherent given thing that G5 winner would be that 12 seed. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure most years, if they keep this current model, most years that would still be the case, right? This year's just kind of been different with the way the ACC played out and kind of cannibalized itself down the stretch, and then the Big 12 has been all over the place. So, I don't think this is an every year thing, but I agree. I think it's probably a deal where you need to look at this, and next year, probably I would say I would lead towards also doing away with the auto buys for the auto bids. You still have the auto bids for the conference champions. because those conference championships have to mean something. And they still do, which is good, because I was kind of worried about like the SEC and the Big Ten this year, where it was like, well, for those conferences, those teams are both in regardless. Those were still both great games, and those teams wanted to win. Yeah. But again, you still need something to add to the fire there. I do think, though, that the auto buys probably have proved to be a little bit of a weaker side of this current format. But we'll get to that next year. How about we pick the first round games here?
Let's do it. Starting off, all these games will be Saturday at 11 a.m. Number 11 SMU goes to Penn State for a daytime whiteout.
Yeah, I'm going to go Penn State here. I think this is a big one for James Franklin, right? He's finally in the playoff. He's never been in the playoff before with Penn State, which is kind of crazy. But it's because they never win those big games. I wouldn't consider this, though, to be like a James Franklin type of game. It's SMU. I still don't see SMU, until I'm proven otherwise, I still don't see them as like a super daunting opponent for anybody here. I think Penn State at home controls this game in all facets.
Yeah. Man, James Franklin has not found a way to win the big games yet, and because of that, I'm going to stray away, and I'm going to go with this high-powered SMU team. I think the offense is just too electric. I mean, you saw them get down big against Clemson and then immediately go and try and turn it around and almost come back and take a victory in that game. But I think this SMU team, the offense is just too high-powered. You haven't really seen that from Penn State in the last couple of years. Good news, they got a new OC over there from KU. Kodalinski's been a lot better.
Oh, yeah.
Still hasn't settled in there, though. I'm going to take SMU in this one. And then we go to ACC champ Clemson, sneaking their way into the playoff. Dabo Swinney wins it, shows his model works, and then goes out and lands a transfer portal player for good measure that no one's ever heard of. They'll be going
icing on the cake.
Oh, yeah. They'll be going to number 5, Texas.
I love it.
Orange out.
Transfer portal player that no one's ever heard of.
I think he's from like Incarnate Wood.
That's great. I'll go Texas here. I think this Clemson team poses a good matchup for Texas. This will be a good game, sneaky game. I think Cade Klubnik is a good quarterback. I don't think people give him enough credit. I think he's better than most people realize. But I think Texas is too high-powered in this game. I really do think, too, that this being the first year of having home field advantage in the playoff matters so much. Like, this is a big deal. We've never seen this before. And I think it's going to add to these atmospheres of these home field environments so much. We're going to see Austin popping on Saturday. We're going to see State College, Pennsylvania absolutely popping on Saturday, in that whiteout. So I'm going to go with the Longhorns here.
I'm going to go with the Longhorns as well. Like you said, home field advantage. I also just don't think this Clemson team is as good as years past, whereas this Texas team is up there, if not better than past Texas teams. I think at the end of the day, this one's going to be a barn burner. Give me Texas to win it. Give me Bevo at the end of the day. I don't know, Dabo. I'm kind of over your time. I think it's about that time to move on. I get it. You just won the ACC championship. You're still hanging in there. You're recruiting well, but I don't know. I've fallen off the train, and I can't find a way to catch up and get back on it, so I'm going to stick with Clemson.
Casey does not have all 10 toes on the Clemson train.
No, I don't.
Benji Haig.
I think I got 10
reference.
Yep, I think I got 10 toes off it.
All 10 off.
No hands on it, no any. I'm watching it go by because, you go ahead and prove me wrong.
Waving at the Dabo train.
Yeah, the Dabo train has left the station for me, and if he wins out, whatever, I'll wear it on my chest. I'll hop back on the train, and I'll say, "You won me over, Dabo. You proved me wrong." But I don't think it's happening. I think it's a round 1 exit. And in the 9 versus 8 matchup, probably what will be. I mean, these 2 night games, man, they're just fantastic. Nothing against the early day games, but not only is it a home field one, these ones seem to have a little bit extra edge with The second game being a in-state rivalry, but the first one becoming a rivalry or some hatred going back in its own right. Number 9, Tennessee going to number 8, Ohio State.
Yeah, this one is really, really good here. So is the Indiana Notre Dame game, is that tomorrow? Is that I think it's a Friday night game, isn't it? I think they've got one Friday night game in this.
Yeah, it is.
In this bracket.
It is. I didn't notice that.
Anyway, though, Tennessee, Ohio State. Ohio State favored by 7 here, which to me is kind of crazy.
Oh.
Yeah.
Didn't they just lose to Michigan?
Very, very surprising. These odds makers, I think, they continue to kind of stay put on the idea that this Ohio State team is, one of the most talented teams in college football history. Unfortunately, they don't quite have the coach to do much with that. Man, dude, I don't think I can put too much faith in Ohio State right now. It feels to me like they're a team just kind of fighting an uphill battle after that Michigan loss. Like this, if Ohio State can win this one, I'll give a lot of pub to Ryan Day because I think this has to be a coaching thing. Like I think for them to win this game after that loss where, what was that? 4 in a row against Michigan? I think that was their 4th loss in a row.
4 straight.
At home. I mean, in a rivalry like that, that's enough to just keep a team despondent, right? So this is absolutely like a coaching deal. And if Ryan Day can get his guys right, I'll give him a lot of credit. I just don't think I can see it happening. And I think I'm going to give Tennessee the edge here. In big games this year, Ohio State is, 1-2? Because they lost to Oregon. They lost to, I suppose they've kind of had 4 big games because you can factor in that Indiana one as well because they beat Penn State and they beat Indiana.
But you beat a Penn State team who's known for not competing in big games. Yeah. And then you beat an Indiana team that
talent-wise doesn't stack up.
I mean, it's Indiana at the end of the day. Indiana football comparing to Ohio State football, that's in its own right. Like, kind of shows that.
No doubt. Yep. So Tennessee here.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. If I was not on the train for Dabo Swinney, I could not be any more off the train for Ryan Day. Those two I've been vocal about it. I get it. Like, things aren't going the way they are. I've had enough. In this day and age in college football, we can move on from you really quick. We can buy out somebody new. We are Ohio State after all. And then now it seems like you're losing the locker room. You're losing a lot of guys to the transfer portal already. Aaron Noland, who's supposed to be this great quarterback that was a true freshman that was supposed to get playing time next year, has said, you know what, I'm out. I don't want to be a part of this. And, fair for him, obviously. But I think Ohio State is going down a path that you can't really just dig your way out of. You have dug your grave, and now you got to sit in it, Ryan Day. Tennessee will solidify it. And for that lawmaker who made it a felony or whatever to plant a flag at midfield at an Ohio State stadium, guess what, buddy? Tennessee's going to plant a flag at your stadium, so get ready to start the judicial process if you're going down that road.
I also, we didn't mention this either, I think Will Howard is a significantly worse quarterback than Nico Iamaleava.
Yeah.
Like Ohio State, you've got this $20 million roster, right? $20 million roster, but
it's held together by a string at quarterback.
That was the quarterback you decided to go with? Like,
you had a 5-star sitting on the bench.
Oh, my goodness.
Aaron Noland.
Exactly. I don't know why they haven't gone with that this year.
Well, they can't anymore.
Yeah, no. Yeah, Will Howard, I never really felt like he was the answer initially. Like, no. that really felt like just another Kyle McCord coming in. Like, he was okay at Kansas State, won a Big 12 championship. He's not an Ohio State caliber quarterback. We've seen the best guys there have been the Justin Fields, who came after him? Who'd they have the last couple of years before? Who'd they have before Kyle McCord?
Fields.
Was he right before McCord?
I think so. Okay. And then they had JT.
Yep. JT Barrett. Cardell
Haskins.
Jones, Dwayne Haskins. Yeah. So it's been those types of guys. not those just traditional pocket passers, right? Those guys thrive at, other Big Ten schools. Ohio State, they don't typically, thrive with guys like that. So,
No.
yeah, Will Howard never was the answer.
No, and I think we knew that Washington played at Kansas State, and then he got outplayed. Kyle McCord outplayed him and had an insane season for a quarterback, at least passing-wise. All right, and then we'll head to, I guess this is the Friday night game. The in-state rivalry, man, how this one drew up. Indiana, the 10 seed, going to college football's cathedral, Notre Dame.
Yeah, I like this one here. Indiana and Curt Cignetti, one of the best stories really in college football in recent memory. What a turnaround they've had from one year to the next. And it shows, what the transfer portal era can do for a team. Like, you're not just stuck in the bowels of college football. If you're in Indiana, you can do something like this in today's day and age. You can bring in all these transfers from James Madison with Curt Cignetti, and that's what they've done. All that to say, though, I think Notre Dame is the significantly better team here. They're at home. I think I'm going to go with Marcus Freeman's squad here. I think, there's a lot riding on this one for Notre Dame especially, right? They haven't been in this spot in a little bit now. So back here, I just think that Notre Dame out-talents Indiana. Home field advantage, like we talked about, is big time here. I just don't know if Indiana has all the pieces. We saw what happened when they played Ohio State, right, in that big game. Like, I think they stacked up better than most people thought, but it's still, it wasn't ever really much of a game, except for the very beginning. I think the same thing kind of happens here.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Notre Dame as well. I love this Indiana team. Like you said, it's a great story. Cignetti has gone out there and done fantastic things, bringing over a lot of his guys from JMU and kind of setting up a future in the Big Ten for Indiana, but I don't think it's this year, right? I still think it's too early. Notre Dame's too talented. This team has been in big games and they won. You think about week 0, they go out to Texas A&M, they win by 10, 23-13. Then they come back, they got to play Louisville at home. That's a very high-powered offense. They find a way to win. They played both military schools when they were in the top 25, and they beat them handedly. They go to USC, and they win that game as well. Notre Dame goes out, and they found ways to win this year. I think Freeman is trending up and up. This team is super good. They won't be wearing black jerseys for anyone who fell for that. Did you see that on Twitter?
What was it?
There was kind of like people were led astray, and they were made to believe that someone had drawn up concept art for like an all-black Notre Dame jersey with like gold outlines, and it was like, oh, rumor has it that they're wearing these jerseys for the game, and Notre Dame just came out like, no, we're just wearing navy.
Well, I was going to say, did they ask Iowa fans beforehand? Because apparently the University of Iowa has licensed the color black.
Yeah.
Like, they own the rights to the color black.
And Notre Dame was wearing gold, not yellow gold.
Oh,
they were going to be gold. So that is just black and gold. I don't know if Iowa signed off on it.
Yeah,
I think that's why it got shot down.
I don't know if they own the gold. I've never heard those allegations, but they absolutely do own the rights to the color black. So
yeah, maybe with the two together.
If you ever wear the black jersey, I mean, you have to ask permission first.
Yeah. Two parties need consent. The staff, the football team, and Iowa. That's how it goes. But yeah, give me Notre Dame in that one as well. I think this will be probably the most fun game to watch, and that it's an in-state rivalry. It's two teams that don't like each other, and both coaches and teams wanting to prove a point. So only splitting on one game, Caleb. We are very home heavy.
Well, it looks like, for better or for worse, our records will stay pretty close to each other as they have been all year long.
Yep.
After the first round of the CFP. How about we finish out today's pod with a little 3 for 3, Casey, and get out of here. We've been doing the 3 for 3 now for a while. This has been a nice segment. We started this, I think, a few months into the pod when we started back in the fall of 2023.
Yeah.
And this has been a mainstay segment for us.
This
good
one's,
stuff.
And it's been fun, too.
We're really good.
Hitting on a lot of different things that we'll continue to hit on today.
No doubt.
There's a little hint at that. I'll start off with my number 3. One of the best traditions in sports in college basketball. Taylor University had their Silent Night, which for those of you who don't know, it's a small like Division III school. Pack a gym that's smaller than most high school gyms. Everyone's in like holiday gear and stuff like that, or onesies. And when the 10th point is scored, everyone storms the field, and it's completely quiet before, and on the 10th point, everyone storms the field or the court. It is just an absolute blast to watch. One of my favorite traditions, and like I said, one of the best things, not only in college basketball, but across all college sports.
I love it. That's a good one. My number 3 kind of hinted at it earlier. I'm going to go with the Drake men's basketball team here.
Big win.
10-0 or 11-0 now. They're the sole undefeated team in college basketball outside of the 3 SEC teams that are still undefeated, which are Oklahoma, Tennessee, and Florida, correct?
Auburn?
Oh, no, I think Auburn got beat by Duke. So
I forgot that game happened.
I think it's those 3.
Yeah.
Maybe, is Florida still undefeated?
I
I know Oklahoma and Tennessee both are. There's one more SEC team.
Couldn't tell you.
Whatever the case may be, they're one of 4 undefeateds and the only undefeated outside of the SEC. So that's pretty sweet. Ben McCollum, head coach. We talked about him a little bit last week on our basketball pod. What a job that they've done. What a job he's done down there after, Darren DeVries left for West Virginia with Tucker DeVries. Darnell Brody graduated as well, one of their better players. And they beat Tang Gang and Kansas State down there in Kansas City. That was awesome to watch. I loved watching that. Go Bulldogs. Rough.
My number 2, actually something that happened super recently. Michigan State's Tom Izzo, head coach, and Oakland's head coach Greg Kampe wore matching Grinch sweaters to the game against each other. And then afterwards, they had their post-game press conferences together where they sat at the table together, told jokes, almost had like a podcast type thing with each other, which was fun, and then answered some media questions and asked each other media questions. Good fun from 2 very well-storied coaches in the game at programs that they've called home for a long period of time. And it's just good fun. It's always good to see coaches and teams. Like, at the end of the day, this is a game. Like, have fun, relax with it, and whatever happens, happens.
Good stuff. My number 2, I'm just going to go with a guy by the name of Josh Allen and the last few games he's had. I think he should be the clear MVP right now in the NFL. I don't even think it's close. That guy's an unreal talent. A couple weeks back, he put up 51 fantasy points, I think, and whatever. I think it was against the Rams. Yeah, it was that game, which is the highest output from a quarterback in fantasy football history. So Josh Allen, pretty good at the sport of football.
My number 1, as usual, heading over to Division I men's soccer, where the Vermont Catamounts win the national championship in sudden death overtime over Marshall. Not only was it the first team competition national championship for the Catamounts, it was also the first time an American East Conference team made it to a national title game in a team sport. That was fantastic. Huge upset, massive story. Think like a 12 seed winning March Madness, a 4 seed winning the CWS. Vermont went out and did it. Sudden death, OT, fantastic story, fantastic game as well.
Can always count on, just cutting against the grain there a little bit and giving us the elite stories of sports, Casey. Good job. My number 1, I'm just going with the names of some of these bowl games. I always love this time of year when you can just run through the list of different bowl games and you combine the sponsorships plus the actual name of the bowl game. So, last night we had the Art of Sport Los Angeles Bowl hosted by Gronk between UNLV and Cal.
Yeah.
Tonight, the R&L Carriers New Orleans Bowl. Always a good one. I'm just kind of scrolling through here. The Game Above Sports Bowl.
Ooh.
Okay. Good one. Of course, the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Classic.
Yeah,
that's a good one. Oklahoma and Navy.
That's a good one.
Your Navy midshipmen just decimated my Army Black Knights, by the way.
Yeah, that is without a doubt.
The classic. Oh, and we got Nebraska in here this year. The Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl. Nebraska versus
In
Boston.
New York.
Nebraska. Yeah, Yankee Stadium. Nebraska versus Boston College.
Win a bowl game just to go up to New York for it.
I know. That's kind of crazy. The SRS Distribution Las Vegas Bowl. Yeah.
When is the Rundown Bowl?
It's really unbelievable. One of these days, man. One of these days. But yeah, always a good time this time of year to run through that. So anything else, Casey, before we hop off? This is probably the last one we do here with cameras on our faces for a while, and probably the last one we do together in probably some time as well, right?
It'll be the last one with cameras this 2024. So we will see everyone in the new year. Crazy to think about.
As they say, see you next year.
Yeah.
Right? Absolutely. Well, if nothing else, Casey, we can hop on off here. It's been a good pod today, good talk. Thank you all for tuning in. As always, go follow our Twitter account at @the_rundown_pod. His name is Casey. My name is Caleb. Thank you guys for tuning in today, and we'll catch you all next time.